Okay, 7.2, the quadratic equation. Now, if you remember on our 7.1, we said, what do we do when we can't factor ax squared plus bx plus c when it's equal to 0? And we said in 7.1, well, we can complete the square, and that is very true. But we can also simply use a formula. Again, we have a, b, and c, which are numbers. And the quadratic equation says that if you do negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, that you can solve for x. Now that's a lot, but that's something you're going to have to know. So say it over and over again in your head. This will need to be memorized. Let's do some, and I'll show you exactly how easy it is going to be. Example 1. X squared, and I'll use my colors on the first one, minus 4x plus 13 equals 0. Well, the first thing you said is, Mr. Repka, there's no number in front of the x squared, but you knew there was a 1. If there's no number as a coefficient, we know that it is a 1. All right, let's plug all of these numbers into my equation. First of all, it's negative b. Be very careful here, because b is negative 4, so it's minus a negative 4. Plus minus square root of b squared. B squared again is our minus 4. Minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 13. All over 2 times a. So the hardest part of this will probably just be plugging all these numbers into the right spot. Let's simplify. Minus a negative 4 means a positive 4. Negative 4 squared is 16. And negative 4 times 1 times 13 is negative 52. All over 2 times 1, which is 2. If I simplify inside the square root, I get 4 plus or minus square root negative 36 over 2. That looks like 4 plus or minus 6i over 2. And if I go to my next slide, 4 plus or minus 6i over 2, you should see you can GCF a 2 out of the top, and those 2's cancel. So my exact answer is 2 plus or minus 3i. What if we had to type this into Canvas? 2 plus 3i, comma, 2 minus 3i. Pretty easy. All right. Another example, example 2. X squared plus 6x plus 4 equals 0. Plug in our numbers, just as color code. We have a, which is 1. We have b, which is 6. And we have c, which is red. I'm not going to keep doing that. So negative b, which would be negative 6, plus minus square square root of b squared, so 6 squared minus 4 times the blue 1 times the red 4, a and c, over 2a, which is 1. Now it's just a simple case of doing our arithmetic correctly, so we're going to have to square first. 6 squared is 36, multiply 4, 1, and 4 together, that's negative 16 all over 2. Simplify that further, 36 minus 16 is 20. Square root of 20 is like square root of 4, square root of 5. And the square root of 4 is 2. And we can GCF out of 2 from the top. And my 2's cancel. So negative 3 plus minus square root of 5. What does that look like in terms of canvas? Well, let's make sure. Negative 3 plus square root of 5 and negative 3 minus square root of 5. So negative 0.76 and negative 5.24. Be sure to round up. So negative 0.76 comma negative 5 and I actually just forgot what we said, 24. So the exact answer on the left, or if we're entering in the canvas, be sure to use your calculator correctly, on the right. Example 3. 3x squared plus x minus 1 equals 0. One nice thing about the quadratic equation is we do not care about the coefficient in front of x squared. If you remember from when we completed the square, that had to be a 1. We do not care with the quadratic formula. Let's plug in our numbers. Negative b means negative 1, plus or minus b squared means 1 squared, minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. That means negative 1 plus or minus 1 squared is just 1. Negative 4 times 3 times negative 1 is positive 12. And all that's over 6. That means negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 6. And there's nothing that we can do with that square root of 13. So this is done in terms of an exact answer. Let's go ahead and get our decimal answer. I'm going to do the numerator first, because that's how I like to do them. I'm just going to say negative 1 plus the square root of 13. I'm going to divide that by 6. That's 0.43. And then for my next answer, negative 1 minus the square root of 13 divided by 6, and that's negative 0.77. So on to canvas, it would be 0.43 and negative 0.77. All right, so it's 3 examples of the quadratic equation that were pretty easy. There's only one way they can trick you up, and this would be it. What if our equation was 2x squared minus 2x minus 10 equals 3x minus 3? Whoa, Mr. Repka, there are numbers everywhere. I don't understand what A, B, and C should be. Those are things you might be thinking to yourself. But remember what I said at the very beginning of this lesson. In order for the quadratic equation to work, what needs to be true about our equation? What needs to equal 0? In order to equal 0, I would minus 3x from both sides, and I would add 3 to both sides. Now what do I have? I have 2x squared minus 5x minus 7 equals 0. And again, the equals 0 is the key thing. This is what we need in order for the quadratic equation to work. So now we are ready to plug in our numbers. Minus, and I'm going to write it out, minus a negative 5, because it's minus whatever the b term is, plus minus b squared, so negative 5 squared, minus 4, a which is 2, c which is negative 7, all over 2 times a, which is 2. Minus a negative 5 is 5. Negative 5 squared is 25, and negative 4 times 2 times negative 7 is positive 56. That is 5 plus or minus the square root of 81 over 4. And this one will work out very nicely, because 5 plus 9 is 14 over 4. And 5 minus 9 is negative 4 over 4. And these reduce to, I'm out of room, so I'll 14 over 4 is the same as 7 halves, or 3.5, and negative 4 over 4 is the same as negative 1. So you could write it this way, or on Canvas, you could write it this way. And that's all there is to the quadratic equation. Make sure that it equals 0, put in your a, b, and c, and solve.